Okay, it's good.
Okay, so we are live. We gonna be talking about from freelancer to entrepreneur challenges that people have in regards to this. So, Conrad, while I'm just setting up the live stream and I'm just setting
Yep.
up certain settings here, can you just start and elaborate on the topic?
Yeah. Welcome everybody to our live stream, the bar conversations with Matt and Conrad. so, uh, so I think we can start on it. We would first have to define what being a freelancer means, and I think what being an entrepreneur means. I mean, like, what do those two words mean? So that because I think it's not so obvious, what we can mean by those words. So I think what we can start with is kind of defining what we think is a freelancer, what's an entrepreneur, and then kind of look at how we see, because you work with a lot of people who, let's say, consider themselves freelancers, and somehow they want to become an entrepreneur because they read about it, or I don't know, they just kind of associate some benefits with that, or some better lifestyle or whatever. So I think maybe you would be probably a good person to define, like, what does it mean to be a freelancer in your kind of point of view, Matt.
So freelancers, to me, they are basically people who are getting paid for an hour of their time. So getting paid for time. That's that's the definition for me. So then, if you're looking at the opposite of this, that would be getting paid for um, that would be getting paid for the not their time, but getting paid for the value that you're bringing. That's the definition for me.
Okay, okay. And also that freelancer, I guess, to add that freelancer, the difference between freelancer and an employee is that freelancer has he's not working for a particular business or company. He works with various different clients. So that's kind of his independence, right? Like, he's more you still have some benefits to being a freelancer. And then, yeah, entrepreneur, I guess, yeah, it's kind of like just basically a business owner. But as far as I read, the definition would be more someone who takes risks to start a business from start. So it means it's basically business owner, but also like trying out and starting new businesses. So I guess let's talk about the challenges, right? So what are the challenges? What are some things, I guess, before we talk challenges, we have to talk about, like, how do you what skills do you need, or what do you need to develop to stop trading your time for money, because that's essentially what you're doing, right? Like, you are trading your time for money if you're a freelancer. So what are the tools and skills, or what do you need to use to go from there, Matt, you think?
So what do you need to do to stop trading your time for money, but start trading your skills for money? For money, is this
Yeah,
what you're
know
saying?
how. Yeah, like, because I guess one of the keys is leverage, right? Like, being able to do more with less. So for 1 hour of time, instead of earning 100, the idea is that you earn 1,000. So what do you need to, what skills and tools, what do you need to learn, or be able to do to go to to change to that, like, to be able to do that?
So you need to understand the idea of the value-based sales.
Mm.
So you need to be able to understand the value that you're bringing to the table.
Mm.
And if you understand the value you're bringing to the table and you're selling the value you're bringing to the table, then this is what allows you to charge 1,000 euros or dollars per hour versus 100. Because if you say my rate is 100 euros an hour, that sounds ridiculous. But if you say that it's 1,000 euros to make the website or an explainer video, and you and people don't know how much time it takes. Well, maybe it takes a minute for you, right? Because you just manage the team. Maybe it doesn't take any time for you. Maybe it takes half an hour for you. Nobody knows. Um, you leverage the team that you have. You leverage the people that you have, and that's it. Then you charge for the value you're bringing to the table. So that's it. That's the point. How do you see this?
Oh, so it's a perfect question, Matt. That's great. So the idea of value. So I think that's where a lot of people, and probably you can talk about if it's a common mindset problem. But I think that's where a lot of people have this belief that things in general have a certain inherent value, that something is just worth something no matter what, like socks or a guitar is worth something. It doesn't matter. There is like a factual value. But I think what you're saying, that there's more to that, that actually value is kind of in the eye of what you can sell. So part of it is how you talk about it, like the story around it. Part of it less is the experience, the other things. So I think my question to you is like, what do you mean? You're talking about value. So what do you think what makes something more valuable or less?
Well, I think the utility that the customer gets out of something. So imagine that I give you I give you 1 hour consultation on how to sell better. Um, it doesn't really matter how hard it is for me. What matters is the utility that you get out of this, and
Mm,
that defines the price. So the beauty is in the eye of the observer,
yeah,
the
yeah,
client. That's essentially how you define this. So really, based on the utility that somebody else can get, and this opens up the ability to exploit this, because up until to the point when you don't understand this concept, you basically think that I have to work harder,
yeah,
and you think that's fair.
yeah,
But the reason why this concept can be exploited, and 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 it's designed to be exploited in a way, um, is that actually it doesn't matter. Like, how much work does it take for you to do it? Like, nobody cares,
yeah.
just because they just care about them.
Yeah, yeah. So people basically they think, okay, this took me that much time and effort or whatever, so this must be that much valuable, so I should sell it for that. Like, it took me 1 hour to make this design, and I say my hour is worth $50, so that's what I'm gonna charge a person. But then I think that the difference is, and then where that comes, the value I think added from different stuff, is that you gotta figure out like what's the end result, and work backwards, and look at, I guess, what's the market, like how much this type of stuff it could be worth, like how much people are selling it for. So and then just figure out like how much value does it deliver, so how useful it is, right, to somebody. And rather look at it that way, as you say, like how useful it is, and then how much someone could pay to get that usefulness, rather than how hard I worked on this and how much time I worked on this. Right?
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Um, okay. So if someone's kind of getting that, okay, they're thinking, okay, so I just need to kind of stop looking at the hours I work on this project, and just kind of figure out how useful it is. So how how would so we were talking about challenges. Okay, so you go through that, you learn that. So what are some next obstacle usually for when you are a freelancer? Once you figure out, okay, I will now have this package, right? I don't know. I will share this deliverable. So something I offered a website. I will sell that for $1,000. So that's your kind of your conclusion from this part. So what are some other next challenges?
Doubling their prices and thinking that they cannot do that. So just undercharging for the value. So I know for some reason they're just thinking that their value is not there. So they're undercharging. So there is some kind of resistance that people have to increase their prices, and for some reason they start with really low prices. And yeah, that's another one. Just that's the next obstacle.
Okay, okay. And why do you think that? Do you think it's usually how do you usually solve that with is it usually some kind of like a deep rooted problem? Like is it also connected to some idea about the word that people are kind of wrong of what the reality is, or like what's the what's the problem? You think?
I think they just measure the value based on what they think it's worth, but they don't measure the value based on what they think it's worth to the customer. So
Okay.
they don't they don't understand that something has a very big, very large value to a customer. For example, um, if you are offering conversion rate optimization for e-commerce stores, then it has a very big value for customers, and the value is easily calculatable based on the amount of the sales that the store generates and based on the improved conversion rate. So that would be an easy example of calculating this. So if you're doing something that you can measure, then then it's simple, and
Hmm.
you're probably then figuring out that hey, I'm undercharging because I can calculate that the value is much larger than that.
Okay. And what about the creative? That's harder, right?
What about the creative stuff? So um, there are certain things that are creative, like for example, animation. And the question is animation used in a way that can create value, financial value for the customer? So if this is animation itself, well, it's hard to measure. But if we put this in a box and we label this as an explainer video, then an explainer video can increase conversion on a website. So we can calculate the value based on increased conversions as well. If this is a hyper realistic animation of a watch, we can also measure increased conversions on the website. So we could put certain data metrics in there to calculate the value. And yes, if this is something highly creative, like for example, we needed a jingle song for the courses in the tribal, and Gabriel, who's sitting here, he um, he composed it, right? He composed the jingle like in garage band, like a song, right? So like
Nice.
I don't know how to measure it. Like I don't know how to measure the value of this.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I mean, it's like how do I measure the value of a jingle song in my course? I don't know. It's nice that we have it,
Yeah.
and it's nice that we was able to make it. I
Yeah.
have
There's
zero
tangible.
clue.
Yeah, there's
Mhm.
tangible and intangible value, right? And I think a lot of value lies in also being able to sell that intangible value, right? Like if you are a salesperson, a lot of times what you are selling is not just the kind of concrete result, but kind of the experience, right? Like how are you gonna feel, how's life gonna be, how like what your business is gonna look like, like the less stress you're gonna have, the more time you're gonna have, so less tangible, right?
Yeah, and then some people sell based on this. Then they're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna sell this to you. Imagine how you're gonna feel in 6 months from now." and you get
Yeah.
like all excited. You're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna feel great in 6 months. So it's like, all right, so this feeling cost this much.
Yeah, like selling feelings basically. But let's zoom out. Another thing I'm thinking about that I think a lot of freelancers, and correct me, maybe I'm wrong, but I think a lot of people who are at this stage where they're like earning money, they're somewhat independent, they kind of are getting gigs on like this some, usually Fiverr, Upwork, some other platforms, or some other, they have some referrals, whatever, but it's still more like freelancing. I think there's this degree, and this is something you are interested in. It's like personality tests and strengths and kind of tendencies. That there's these people on one hand who have more those like um, entrepreneurial way to them, that they are much more easy to like figure out problems, find an interesting solution, take risks, start something quickly. But then they have like issues like, having structure and putting processes and kind of delegating it and finding right people. And then there's people who are more like those freelancers who are like great with like structure and processes. They have this, but they have trouble like kind of raising probably the prices, like selling more, selling bigger. Do you see it also this way or different way?
Wait, so what's your question? So you're saying that there are freelancers who have trouble packaging and going through a specific direction, and then there are some that don't have the problem, or what are you saying exactly, Conrad?
No, that there's like certain like personality traits and tendencies, and one thing comes easier than the other for one person. So I was saying like for the more entrepreneurial. So let's say I have that more side, right? It's easier for me. Let's say I imagine a freelancer. It's like, oh, you tell me this, and I start, like maybe selling, because that comes easier to me. I start doing this, but then I have problem with other stuff that would help me become an entrepreneur, which is how to structure things, how to make operations, how to delegate things, how to you know hire people. And then other person, maybe like some people in the tribe, like say Cadence, or I don't know, anyone. They have more like this kind of technical way about them. They are really good at what they do, and they're great with like stress processes and structure, but they have trouble with the more like taking the entrepreneurial risk. That's what I'm thinking. So my question to you is this what you also see? And then that these people have like different paths slightly when they want to go from the freelancer to entrepreneur, or are they kind of similar, and those differences, they don't really make that much difference? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean there is a huge difference, and I mean there is so many dimensions that you have to enter when you're when you're getting into business and running a company, right? So it's so multidimensional, and there is so much on the dimension of personality. So there is just so much in regards to the um, ability to be structured, ability to be conscientious, ability to be aggressive, or maybe ability to connect with people. So normally, um, it appears to be common that you're not going to find people who are great at, for example, structure and being aggressive and being great project managers and uh, being great at sales and being great at feeling other people and great at talking, right? So you're gonna have those different personalities who have those superpowers, and that's one of the things that I see in people when I work with them. I see them and I say, "Hey, this is your superpower." For example, your superpower is you're great at connecting with people, you're great at creating vision, or your superpower is keeping people accountable and putting uh, projects in place and catching plates. And the way I see this is that once you enter the entrepreneurship and you start a company versus being a freelancer, you really have to have all those bases covered, right? You cannot
Mm.
run a company that is like spiritually feeling the people that they are talking with on the sales call and converting them really well, but at the same time not keeping deadlines when it comes to the delivery, because that because it
Yeah.
just doesn't work. But in the same way, you cannot have a company that you have started that you're autistic while you're trying to close sales, because you're not going to close sales. I'm sorry to say that it probably doesn't sound politically correct, but
That's
it's
true.
true.
Yeah,
But
it's true.
it's true. Like you cannot do that. You cannot be like just sitting there, and it's probably not going to work. So you need all those personality traits within an organization, and the way to do this is to hire or partner with people who have the opposite personalities to you. And this is the
Mm,
shortcut that I've seen works
mm,
very freaking well for me and for a lot of people I've been working with. I'm
mm,
not good at accountability. I'm not good at catching plates. I'm good at throwing them in the air. And this is genius to hire people who have the opposite skill to you.
mm.
Same if you are a geek who can just sit there and code, you should then hire people who are just out there, who are promoters, right? So
Mm.
I, I think this is the shortcut. I think this is the hack. This is the growth hack for.
Listen, people.
This is the growth hack for growing a company. Hiring people who have the opposite personality traits to you, based on particularly DSM, not based on the 16 personalities because it's too basic. Particularly based on DSM 6, I think this is the shortcut. This is the hack. And then this is just one dimension to it. Now another dimension is the roles people are taking. So that would be regarding to the E-myth. So think about the three roles that people take in company: the entrepreneur, who's going through the jungle um, with a machete, is just like going through it. And then there is the technician who's like fixing everything and implementing, and then there is the manager who's managing everyone. So this is the terminology coming from the E-myth. It doesn't have much to do with the personality styles based on the DSM-6 nor 16 or anything else, but I think this is another interesting dimension to look at when you're thinking about growing your company. The three hats that you're wearing: the hat of an entrepreneur, the hat of a manager, the hat of the technician.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, and on this one, you also need to kind of play on this dimension. You also have to kind of play with the people in the company, as
Mm.
in, okay, you're the technician, you're implementing, uh, but I'm the technician in this, and I'm implementing. For example, in the tribal, I'm the technician when it comes to consulting and coaching calls. I'm the technician because I'm doing the work, because I'm the person consulting. But at the same time, I'm an entrepreneur developing the company.
So
And at the
okay.
same,
Yeah. Go ahead.
it's just understanding where in your company you're um, running the entrepreneurial role, where in the company you're running management role, and where in the company you're running the technician role.
Okay. And so then I think a lot of we could say that most of the freelancers, when they are still, let's say, in the freelance stage, they like 90% of their work is in the technician stage, technician hat or technician role, right? So they
Yeah,
just basically do things. They kind of
yeah.
they don't build a machine, they are the machine. Like they
You're
they
the gear.
yeah,
Yeah,
they are the gear in the machine, and most of them. So then you could visualize it as like, there's like this machine and system, and you can either like kind of play with the whole system, or you can just be in the system and just kind of be the gear in there that's like kind of operating and turning every day. um so one question that popped in my head is, I guess, what do you think are the requirements, even because you work with certain people and with certain you don't, right? That you help them make that jump from being a freelancer entrepreneur. So, but you don't work with anyone. You wouldn't work most of the time with someone who is, I don't know, like um, just starting out, like in general, like they have no. So you usually have some entry barrier when it makes sense to make that leap. So I'm kind of curious, like, what do you think is the minimum requirement to even think about taking this jump?
I think the requirement is to be willing to compromise the, compromise your laid backness for,
Safety.
yeah, safety and peace of mind for,
Mm.
compromise it for a hustle, and in exchange getting the ability to be more free. So that's the requirement.
Wow.
It,
That's nice. So okay. So basically, give up a peace of mind. Okay, peace of like. That's interesting. That's an interesting way to put it. But yeah, that actually is true.
no,
So, I,
because you I mean, it's not just a good thing. It's a bad thing in the sense of it. You're gonna have to work more. It's more stressful. Everything is on your back. At the same time, it is the best self-development program you could ever take on. Starting
yeah,
your company, like I don't think there could be anything better, or I have never experienced anything better because it exposes you to so many challenges, and that's why I have so much respect to entrepreneurs.
yeah,
Um, who are risking so much
yeah,
to create freedom for themselves and also to create added value to the society versus the governments versus the um, people leeching of this, right? So those are the definitely most valuable people in the society, in my view.
yeah.
Um,
Besides, like
and
scientists, maybe.
not besides, I would say scientists would be right after entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Because entrepreneurs make bold goals of going to Mars, and then they hire scientists and tell them, "Hey, you guys figure out the way to do it." Um,
Yeah, entrepreneurs are the practical application of science, right? Like you could say that in a way.
so it brings me to my social hierarchy, which I was presenting a couple years back, where I put entrepreneurs on top of the social hierarchy. Right after that, skilled experts like scientists, right under um, regular workers that are necessary but easy to replace with automation or computers like postmen or McDonald's servers, and then at the bottom, thieves and government workers. So that would be the that would be the social hierarchy.
Oh, that's too nice.
As I depicted this a couple of years back, I still follow this idea because it's based on the value you're bringing to the society. So based on the how much you're giving in, and at the bottom, the takers. Now,
Where are hippies in this on the scale?
well, hippies are not giving nor taking, so I would say they're kind of. I'm happy with them. They are not.
Okay.
I don't feel like they're taking anything from me, nor I don't think they're giving in much. So
Yeah, that's
they can be out of this structure, but and I do respect hippies as much as I respect entrepreneurs in a sense.
mm,
So I do respect people. I think hippies and entrepreneurs are very, very similar.
mm,
And they're similar in the sense that they're both seeking freedom. It's just a
mm,
different approach to it. The
mm,
hippies are saying, I'm not going to follow the hippies are saying, I'm not going to follow the structure of the society. I'm going to get out of this and I'm going to live in a freaking cave.
yeah.
Uh, and entrepreneurs are saying, I'm not going to follow a structure of the society and I'm going to live outside of the society and build my own concept. So it's to me, it's very similar, hippies and entrepreneurs. And for this reason, I respect them as well. If I was not an entrepreneur, I would be a hippie because, I mean, at least you get out of the
Yeah.
Structure. So those
Oh,
are the people who are kind of like getting out of the structure. That's how I see this.
so how did you figure it out for yourself then? Like, what is it for you when you were like, oh, I want freedom, and then there's this thing like becoming an entrepreneur, so I could be valuable, so I could in a way not have to be this hippie. So do you remember this moment like in your life?
No, but I must have thought that as an entrepreneur, you end up having more freedom in the long run than as a hippie, because as a hippie you are, I don't know, have less money and less ability to travel and so on. Like right now as an entrepreneur, you can still travel all around the world. Like right now, like we got another guy just coming here to Vietnam. It costs
Oh,
5k. It costs
okay.
5k to come here. I'm not saying where the money goes to, but it does cost a certain amount of money, and the entrepreneurs can still travel right now.
Hmm.
Hippies, I think they cannot, because they cannot afford 5k to come to another country to
But they have peace
just
of mind.
for quiet.
They have peace of mind,
So do
maybe.
enlightened people. So that's why I respect them as much as hippies and entrepreneurs. Maybe some people are just sitting there and being enlightened and thinking, yeah, I'm free. But I wanted to bring one
Yeah.
more one more step to converting from freelancer to entrepreneur,
Yeah,
which
go
I
ahead.
think is important. It's a step of willing to take over. I've seen that a lot of people are kind of like, yeah, I kind of want to start a business and it doesn't work for them. But when but but to make this work, and when I see this works for them, is when they decide that I'm going to take a part of this pie and take over part of the industry, and getting serious about this, getting serious about dominating part of an industry. And I know it sounds a little bit crazy and kind of like Nazi slash aggressive, but but I think there is some truth to it, and I think it's important
Hmm.
to be willing to take part of the to take piece of the cake and willing to dominate. With the tribal, for example, I didn't feel really like we are making progress when I was just saying, hey, yeah, let's just make another mastermind. Up to the point when I decided that, and it was a couple of months ago, and I think we're growing since then. I thought, hey, let's not uh, compete with our competition. Let's erase them and take over. They are not even competing with us because we're just another dimension of how great this company can be. I think this is important. This is important for anyone in the industry. Because if you're in your industry and you're trying to build a company, then what would be your other goal than dominating the industry? Then why are you even doing this?
Yeah, but that's I think a common theme, right? Again, that also that some people are like, you know, I think you said this and it's brilliant. I think that a lot of people are like, I don't. My business is not so interesting. The like the industry or whatever I do, like the thing, and then so I don't feel like this big motivation to like become someone big in there. But I think you often tell people that this um, kind of bigger motivation usually comes from simply it doesn't really depend on the industry if it's fun or not. It's usually kind of like when your business becomes kind of more like a business.
Conrad,
No,
let me put you on hold. I have to go to
okay.
toilet. And then
Oh,
I'm
okay.
gonna put headset on a random person sitting right next to me
Okay.
for the time being.
Okay. So,
Good evening. My name is Gabriel.
hey,
Okay.
I'm
Well,
yeah, I'm also taking a break then for a second, I guess.
okay. All right. Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna go on drinking my beer. What are you guys doing? What is it
Talking
about?
from freelancer to entrepreneur, like what are the challenges? Like why?
Awesome. And you guys are live?
Yeah, yeah.
And how many people are looking at?
I don't know because Matt is the host. So I don't know if I can see that. I
Okay.
don't.
Well then,
I can't see that.
hi
so
people.
but it's gonna be watchable later. So even
Awesome. 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 What's the YouTube channel name?
No, it's on. It's just streaming on all the usual, the Facebooks, the my YouTube, Matt's YouTube,
Okay.
my Facebook, Matt's Facebook, the group Freelancers to Entrepreneurs Facebook group.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
so
That's
that's
cool.
the
That's
group.
cool. Awesome. Right. Well, then I'll have a look definitely. I hope I don't look too shady there with my cap. Peter, you want to say a word? Yeah.
Sure.
Well, then.
Hi, Conrad. How are you?
Good, good. I gotta grab water, man. So, um,
Easy. You grab
I'll,
water, bro.
I will be back in a sec.
Sure, sure, sure. Anybody watching? We're in a bar in Ho Chi Minh City, which is called the Beer Garden. I'm sitting here with my colleague Gabriel. Hey, Gabriel, say hi. Um, we're holding
Oh,
the call for
oh,
Conrad and Matt, who are back right now. Wishing you some insights. Bye bye.
jeez. Okay, nice.
Yeah, I know what you guys. I know what you guys talked about. Maybe you briefed me.
No, we weren't talking about much. I was just talking where we are streaming and stuff. But I paused the conversation, so yeah, we can resume. That was a commercial break.
Got it. All right. So yeah, that's it. I think those are the three steps. So to sum up, make a commitment, and I even forgot the first step, Conrad, to be honest. But those were the three steps.
No, but the last challenge is having. So that's something I asked you. So it's about having the mindset of like takeover. So it's basically like having some guy, I guess, bigger vision. It's like not just, hey, I want to make this 1K more, but hey, I want to become the go-to business in this industry. And what I was saying is that I saw, and that's what people you were talking about, that a lot of people are like, hey, my industry is boring. I don't have the motivation to be big there. And you usually say that it's not about the industry because each one is boring in a way. It's kind of the same. Always, everyone has this perspective on their particular what they do. But you always say that it just comes from this drive comes from you just becoming like serious, like, hey, it's not gonna be no matter where I go, it's just shiny object syndrome. Stay there and just become try to make it better. Once you see that it's kind of serious, you will be like, oh fuck, it's actually possible that I can make this the best business. Is that kind of, am I picturing it correctly?
Mm, mm.
Because you said like that it's about the mindset of take over. So like
Mhm.
what's
I think
what's usually stopping people from having this mindset, like, I guess.
I think it just I think it just well, nothing is stopping them. It's just they don't want it. It's just they don't think about it. When
Oh.
you expose people to this idea, it starts to tickle their pickle, as you put it today.
Yeah.
I think that's basically that's basically what's happening.
Hmm.
Um, and it's one of the ways. I mean, one of the ways is to say, hey, you want to take over, take over. It's one of the ways of showing people a bigger picture. I guess there could be more ways to this, but it's just one of the ways of getting people to see the bigger picture.
Okay. Okay. Um, so yeah, so let's I don't know. Should we summarize this section, or do you have some other follow up on this? What we talked about, like when it comes to challenges, because the bar talk for today's challenges, unless there are some questions, I don't know. I can't see them. I think. And we can either elaborate on what we just been talking about, like on these challenges, or we can, I don't know, change the topic slightly.
No, I
What?
think we wrap this up, right? Because we've been going for like it's hour and a half. So we said we would schedule 1 hour and a half. So I
Oh
think
yeah.
we can wrap this up. I think it was a good discussion, and we had three solid points on the main challenges that freelancers have when converting to entrepreneurship. I think those were solid, and I think that's that's a good point to wrap this up.
Okay. Oh yeah. So the first one was value, right?
Hmm.
First one was value. Mm, the second one, what was the second one? That's not that- the first one was value that most people don't believe.
The
They
second one
just,
was increasing prices.
yeah, like increasing prices, and third, having the vision, and also somewhere in between we were talking about this, like different personalities. So then, like finding people that have, so basically building a team is one. But I think that ties to the big problem of just stopping this stopping thinking that you only have this one hat of technician, which is like, I'm just, if it needs to get done, I have to do it myself, and try to find people who can do the things that you are bad at, especially better than you, and start paying them so you can earn back the time, and you can do the things you're good at in that time, and thus create more value. um
Yeah.
right? And then the last one is the bigger vision. Like, you need to actually have vision, or just some kind of like bigger drive than just, I think, money or freedom. I think it's not enough. If you want the business to actually be serious business, like, you need to be like, okay, I want this business to be the best, or I want this to change this, and probably doesn't, I think the key there, it might be, is that you're probably not gonna like wake up and have this big vision suddenly. It's more like it develops over time. It's like you
Or
see
you
more.
ask yourself a question like, do you want to take over or dominate the industry, or do you
Yeah.
just sell websites? I mean, like, then like, I don't know, like, how can you keep going with this? Like, is it worth it? Like selling websites, is it worth it? Or do you want to make the best, most impactful company in the industry? Ask
Mm,
yourself a question, and I think the answer will be obvious.
okay. And then we talked about the minimum requirements. So you said that it's like, you know the willingness to trade the piece of time, peace of mind, for freedom.
Yep.
Which I think is a great, summary on that. Like, you could be naval Matt Almanac, one liners from heaven. So yeah, that was my summary, and I guess you can wrap up with like your formal words on your summary and your last thoughts, Master, because I think that's kind of all in my brain then.
Well, I want to thank you, my parents, for making me, and Conrad for being part of this live stream today, and our hosting provider, StreamYard, and the bar that I'm at right now. Thank you guys for joining, and we're gonna see you next week on the next live stream where Conrad's gonna be interviewing one of our tribe members, Gareth.
Yep, that's gonna happen.